How you doing, folks? This is Rex from the Buckeyenest. First, I have to apologize for something. The video you're about to see is from another episode, actually episode 7 of from another veteran's point of view, and it actually got me so upset that I couldn't hardly talk right. So I have to apologize if it doesn't sound very professional, because I was attempting to point out the errors of this young man's way. But I guess you'll find out the hard way in the long run. So, in case y'all didn't notice, Franco's back. Yeah, he didn't go AWOL. He decided to come back because he knew he was going to have to back me up, especially after today's ruling by this snowflake libtard judge out in the Ninth Circuit Court in San Francisco, California. Decided to stay the ban on the new immigration stuff. So that's what this video is about, because I found this YouTube page. It's called the Humanist Report, and I had never run across anything on the internet. Of course, I didn't look very hard, that promoted the libtard thinking, the democratic thinking, the snowflake thinking, that was pro or that was against the immigration ban on Muslims. And let me rephrase that: the immigration ban on people coming from the Muslim religion from countries that have already been known to harbor terrorists. And this is a temporary ban that President Trump asked for. He didn't ask for a permanent ban, like you're going to see this young man talking about. Of course, it's his YouTube channel. He can do with it what he wants. So I'm not going to sit here and get myself all aggravated about it again, because you're going to hear me breaking in and talking about it, making comments about it. So without further ado, here's episode 7 of From a Veteran's Point of View. And this goes out to all you snowflakes and liberals and lame brains and morons and stuff like that. And I got a joke for you. I'll tell you this little joke. How many of you out there in the internet world know the difference between a conservative and a liberal? If you do, raise your right hand. See this? This is your right hand. If you do, raise your hand. Well, I don't see any hands up there, so let me tell you. The difference between a conservative and a liberal. A conservative will walk down the street, see a penny on the ground, stop and pick it up and put it in his pocket. Liberal will walk down the street, see the same penny, and just leave it laying there and say to themselves, "That's all right. I'll find somebody to give me one, and I don't have to bend over." Well, let me give you some insight. If you keep letting these Syrian refugees come in this country, and it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter the sex, you're going to bend over, all right, and you may not like the results. And this little soldier won't be there to help your ass. So, watch this video. I'll be back. Maybe I'll bring Franco with me. Yes, and I can't believe that this is actually happening. But the reason it's happening is because of people like Mr. Mike Figueredo here. So, I'm going to record this video of his. It's 12 minutes long, and then I'm going to tear it apart for him. Then I'm going to remind him about what's going to happen to him, because he's sitting back laughing and giggling, thinking about all the freedoms and all the Syrian refugees that's going to be allowed in the country now. And the first thing they're going to do is reinstate all the visas that got knocked out and Of course, I'm going to remind him, being an old soldier, what's going to happen to him. So let's watch this video.
So as you all know, last week President Trump issued an executive order which bans Syrian refugees from entering the country. It also bars citizens from 7 Muslim.
Of course, this has to be some young
entering the United States.
Snowflake.
And these countries are Syria, Sudan,
I bet he doesn't even know what
Libya,
end of a gun
Somalia,
it is
Yemen,
that the
and
bullet
Iraq.
comes out
now,
of.
We're bombing most of these countries currently, so it's a little bit ironic that they're the ones that are seen as a threat when we're not. Now, what's fascinating about this story, you all know about it by now, is that it backfired tremendously in Trump's face. And after it backfired, however, the way that Trump responded to it is very troublesome. Now, what he's trying to do is basically rewrite history before our very eyes. Now, I'll tell you how he's doing that, but first I want to talk about how it backfired. So, as you all know by now, last weekend, when this executive order was issued, it led to nationwide...
It figures. I see he's wearing earrings in his ear. That just confirms that this is another snowflake. Probably doesn't even know how to use a knife if he had to. Probably be his family and his wife and girlfriends or whatever, sisters, that'll probably get raped by these Syrian refugees that he's so happy he's coming into the country now. And he does live in California. So this is a good example of, let's just build the wall up on the southern border and continue building it up along the northern border of Southern California. And then we'll let all these refugees move into California, and he can put them in his house.
Wide protests at airports across the country as citizens from these countries were detained. And this includes protests in New York, Philadelphia, Boston, Washington State, including Seattle, Dallas, New Jersey, Chicago, San Francisco. Now, thankfully, all of this chaos that ensued as a result of Donald Trump's executive order came to a halt once the federal courts issued this message to Donald Trump.
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
So thankfully, U.S. District Court Judge and...
The only asshole I see here is you, Mike. You need to knock this rhetoric off. You need to knock this bullshit off. And we need to bring the country back together. And you're not helping it in any way, shape, or form.
And Donald Lee sided with the ACLU's habeas corpus suit that they brought forward immediately after Donald Trump signed this executive order. And Donald Lee states there is imminent danger that absent the stay of removal, there will be substantial and irreparable injury to refugees, visa holders, and other individuals from nations subject. So after getting shot down by the American judicial system, after facing nationwide resistance from protesters, Donald Trump is trying to tell us to not believe our lying eyes.
It's not a Muslim ban, but we're totally prepared. It's working out very nicely. You see it at the airport, you see it all over.
Listen to him, Mike. He is our president. He is the president of the United States at this time. It's not a Muslim ban. It's a temporary ban. And I want you to realize something. Or maybe you do, and you're just a fake news reporter. You never said a word about that being a temporary ban. You are pointing out the fact that it is a ban. It is not a ban. It is a temporary ban until we can get our shit together. I lived in Southern California for 20 years. I worked law enforcement for 20 years. Let me tell you a horror story, Mike. I come outside of a Safeway store there. Worked in a shoplifting detail. Reached up to snatch a hold of a man who's about 6'6", weighed about 280 pounds, and I'm no slouch. I'm 6'6", and I weigh about 300 pounds. Stepped out the door behind him. I was one step off his heels. I reached out to snatch a hold of him, and L.A. County Sheriff's deputies stepped up and shoved shotguns, one on each side of his head. 2 deputies. They shoved those shotguns so far up into the base of his earlobes that I thought they lifted his head up off his shoulders. Wouldn't have surprised me if he wasn't a half an inch up off the ground. I'm taking the man down for stealing a piece of meat, a steak. They're taking him down for murder. He was an illegal alien. He was an illegal alien, Mike. maybe we need to wake you up with some of those lame brains out there. I was in the middle of all the Rodney King riots, Reginald Denny strikes. I can't even begin to count the number of people that I arrested in the duties of my security assignments that were illegal aliens. If anybody can tell, I am really pissed that this is happening. And frankly, when the shit hits the fan, I'm going to remember all these snowflakes. And when they come running to me and begging me for help, I'll remind them what they did.
It's working out very nicely, and we're going to have a very, very strict ban, and we're going to have extreme vetting, which we should have had in this country for many years.
There's so many lies in that short 17-second clip that I don't even know where to begin. So first, he says that it's not a Muslim ban. Okay, so if religion isn't a factor, then why are you prioritizing Christian refugees over Muslim ones? I'm just curious. Now also...
Because let me tell you, libtard, this country was formed on Christianity. How many countries in this world right now were formed on Christianity? Can you answer that question? I'll be looking forward to your response to that question, because I'll bet you don't even know. But this country was formed on Christianity. Maybe you're an atheist.
Nobody believes that this isn't a Muslim ban because your friend, Rudy Giuliani, already spilled the beans.
When he first announced it, he said Muslim ban. He called me up and he said, put a commission together, show me the right way to do it legally.
Oops. But I don't want you to be mad at Rudy Giuliani, Trump, because if I'm remembering correctly, you actually ran on a Muslim ban.
You're not remembering correctly, Mike, because I do video work too. Everything coming out of your mouth can be edited, can be changed, can be made to sound like it's on your side of the coin.
And it was included in your first campaign ad.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
The politicians can pretend it's something else, but Donald Trump calls it radical Islamic terrorism. That's why he's calling for a temporary shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until we can figure out what's going on.
Whoa, hold everything. At least somebody's got it right. Temporary ban on Muslims entering the U.S. Keyword, temporary. Temporary ban on Muslims entering the U.S. And I'm going to lay you odds. We're 3 minutes and 16 seconds into your video, Mike, and I'll bet those words never come out of your mouth.
Now, just so we're clear here, that was a direct quote from Donald Trump.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
But it's not a Muslim ban, you guys. Even though I campaigned on doing a Muslim ban and said it repeatedly, this isn't a Muslim ban. And also, war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is...
Mike, you continue to twist the words. You continue to twist the words, and you're going to get a whole bunch of your libtard friends killed by these illegal aliens coming in. These Syrian refugees, they don't give a shit. You need to watch some of those videos, Mike. It might be just you, the first one they're going to snatch up and laugh at as they chop your head off.
Strength, according to Donald Trump. Now, second of all, Donald Trump also contends that the Muslim ban is going very nicely. Now, just instinctively, I'm inclined to disagree, seeing that your executive order sparked nationwide protests. You had to fire the acting Attorney General, Sally Yates, because she refused to comply with this unconstitutional order, which, by the way, is a strategy right out of the playbook of many authoritarian dictators. And also, just to really illustrate how nicely this Muslim ban went for Trump, this is what happened.
Dozens of passengers were detained once they hit U.S. soil this weekend at various airports, including this Iranian mother's 5-year-old son that you see on the left-hand side. She anxiously awaiting his arrival at Washington's Dulles.
Oh, let's play the kitty card now. Let's play the kitty card. We've had our borders so wide open for so long, it's going to take radical measures to shut them down, to get rid of the terrorists that are already in this country, to wake up the sleepers of the sleeper cells so we can find out where they're at and take them out before they take you out, Mike, before they take this lady out. Now, some people's going to argue, well, we wouldn't let her 5-year-old son in the country. Maybe she needs to go back home and take care of her son there. Maybe she needs to take her boyfriend or her husband, who's probably of fighting age, with her and fight to recover their own countries.
International airport Saturday night, only to learn that he was one of the travelers detained. And there you see the reunion after hours spent without answers.
Quote, "It's working out very nicely." Oh yeah? Well, here's another example as to how nicely Donald Trump's Muslim ban worked out.
It was a strong shock, he says. We received visas after waiting 3 years. Then this order comes. The Iraqi branch of Al-Qaeda planted a bomb in his car in 2009. It blew both his legs off and mangled his left hand. They targeted him because he provided the U.S. Marines and Iraqi police with intelligence on the terrorists in his hometown of Fallujah.
So I'm sorry, Donald Trump, it's not working out nicely. Nobody believes that. We are not going to deny our own eyes. We can actually see what's going on. So it didn't work out nicely. Now, third, he claims that...
Deny your own eyes, huh, Mike? Did you see that wheelchair he was sitting in? You continue to let these refugees in, and it doesn't matter whether they're 5 years old or 105. They only do one thing. They kill people. Radical terrorists kill people. I'm not sitting here saying that all Muslims are bad, but let's try this thought, Mike. Why don't you spread this word around amongst your libtard snowflake friends? Why don't you get them all to support this scenario? Bring them in the country. Bring in the kids, bring in the wives, the moms and dads, the old, the feeble that can't fight wars. But let's turn the young ones back around. Let's put them back on a boat or put them back on an airplane. Let's give them a weapon and let's tell them, you take back your country. You take it back. When it's all said and done, you'll have an option. You can call and have your family sent to you, or you can come back to the United States and live. But in any case, you got our word of honor that we will take good care of your family. How about that, Mike? How about that? You know, and I'll bet if the draft was still in, you'd be a draft dodger. All this crap that is hitting the news nowadays reminds me of the 1960s and the hippies.
That we don't have an extreme vetting process and that we should have had one in place years ago. Again, this is another lie. The United States has been extremely vetting Syrian refugees since we started to admit them into the country. USA Today explains Syrian refugees wait an average of 8...
Oh, wait a minute. Now let me comment to this. How can you vet an individual? How can you vet an individual that there is no paper trail of? Computer systems have all been destroyed. Record keeping in foreign nations is nowhere near as good as the record keeping is in the United States. So how can you vet individuals when there's no way to vet them, when there's no record keeping? Answer me that, Mike. Tell me that. Reason I sound so aggravated is this. If we don't shut our borders down, that means old farts like myself and my brother and all the other old fart veterans is going to have to pick up guns and going to have to take care of business, along with our current, younger, more modern military today. Don't push us into that corner. Don't do it, Mike.
18 months to 24 months before being admitted to the United States. The 21-step screening process goes through multiple agencies, including the United States High Commissioner for Refugees, the U.S. State Department, the FBI, and the United States Department of Homeland Security. Applicants undergo 2 and sometimes 3 interagency security checks to make sure nothing disqualifies them for admission to America. Refugee applicants also undergo a comprehensive medical examination to ensure that they don't have a contagious disease. Refugees continue to be screened after they arrive in the U.S. Within a year, they can apply for a green card. 5 years later, they can apply to become naturalized U.S. citizens. The federal government conducts background screening procedures at both steps. In fact, the government has a special program called the Controlled Application Review and Resolution Program that can delay refugees and other applicants for years based on alleged national security concerns. Several immigrants have had to sue the U.S. Immigration Agency to get their cases out of this black hole. So the fact that you continue to claim that we do not do extreme vetting is false. We have one of the most strict vetting programs in the world, hence why the refugees that we've admitted to the country, they've proven to not be a threat. They're hardworking Americans that just wanted to flee from the chaos that was ensuing in their own country.
San Bernardino, Mike. Both those terrorists were from Syria. Did they get vetted? I can't even recall how many people they killed. Young man right here in the state of Ohio. Ohio State University. Syrian refugee. Took a truck and ran over a bunch of people and then took a butcher knife and just started slashing. Did he get vetted? You want me to go on? Do a Google search, Mike. Do you want to be on the end of one of those, the receiving end of one of those Syrian refugees that's led into this country and they go off? Do you? Maybe you'll get lucky and the guy that's doing the shooting will just blow both your kneecaps out and maybe your right shoulder off, and you can live in a wheelchair the rest of your life. If not, some kind of a coma on an iron lung maybe. Maybe you'll take a bullet through the lung.
Now, of course, Donald Trump's supporters, they believe everything that he says. They don't care about reality. As long as Donald Trump says it, they're willing to accept it. And they're pushing back with some not dank memes, and they're contending that liberals are hypocrites because when President Obama did an Iraqi refugee ban in 2011, well, we were silent. But now that President Trump is doing a refugee ban, all of a sudden, we're outraged. But that's not entirely true. Now, I've never been shy about my opposition towards liberal hypocrisy, but Trump doesn't just receive a get-out-of-jail-free card for doing shitty things that Obama also did, but most importantly, the main problem with this line of thinking is that it's factually untrue. Now, the prominence of these claims, in part, are due to President Trump alleging that President Obama did, in fact, do an Iraqi refugee ban.
Okay, Mike, let's do it. Let's issue another challenge. Let's issue another challenge to you. Point out your facts. Why don't you get a website or point them out in this video. Tell the people where they can go find your factually untrue statements are. And let's make sure that they are legitimate and not fake news like the Washington Post, the New York Times, or CNN.
That's not true. Trump says, my policy is similar to what President Obama did in 2011 when he banned visas for refugees from Iraq for 6 months. The 7 countries named in the executive order are the same countries previously identified by the Obama administration as sources of terror. Now, this is wrong for 2 reasons. One, President Obama imposed new security checks on Iraqi refugees, and even though it did significantly slow down the admission of them for 6 months, well, it never stopped. And note that this didn't apply to Iraqi citizens, just refugees. However, Trump just outright tried to ban refugees and citizens. Now, he also claims that he decided to ban citizens from entering these 7 countries because President Obama previously declared that they were sources of terror. But Vox clarifies, stating, Trump is referring to an amendment to the State Department's Visa Waiver Program, a long-standing initiative that allows people from certain countries to enter the United States without obtaining a visa first. After the San Bernardino terrorist attacks in December of 2015, the Obama administration and Congress collaborated to change the way the program affected people from 7 countries: Iraq, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. People with passports from these countries hadn't actually been covered in the visa waiver program. The law overwhelmingly privileges Europeans, but someone who was a dual national with citizenship from a covered country, say a French Syrian, could theoretically use her French passport to enter the U.S. with virtually no security. The new rules removed visa waiver privileges for dual nationals, as well as people from a visa waiver country who had recently visited one of the 7 nations, like a Brit who had recently traveled to Iraq. So I'm sorry, but President Trump doesn't get to use the Obama did it so I get to do it too card. He doesn't. And furthermore, it doesn't matter if Obama did it too. The fact of the matter is that this is not only just unconstitutional, it's illegal too. The New York Times explains the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 banned all discrimination against immigrants on the basis of national origin, replacing the old prejudice system and giving each country an equal shot at the quotas. In signing the new law, President Lyndon B. Johnson said that the harsh injustice of the national origins quota system had been abolished. Nonetheless, Mr. Trump asserts that he still has the power to discriminate, pointing to a 1952 law that allows the president the ability to suspend the entry of any class of aliens that he finds are detrimental to the interest of the United States. But the president ignores the fact that Congress then restricted this power in 1965, stating plainly that no person could be discriminated against in the issuance of an immigrant visa because of the person's race, sex, nationality, place of birth, or place of residence. The only exceptions are those provided for by Congress, such as the preference for Cuban asylum seekers. So let's be very clear here. Donald Trump's Muslim ban, and let's call it what it is, it's a Muslim ban, is illegal, and it's unconstitutional. Yet despite this obvious fact, he still wants to do it. Someone who claimed to be the law...
Well, I'll tell you what, Mike. I remember back last year, a whole bunch of people said Donald Trump wasn't going to get elected. A lot of them laughed at him. Probably you too. You probably laughed at him. Changed things around, didn't he? And we all know that since you live in Southern California and that Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is in San Francisco, California, right in the hotbed of all the gays, the lesbians, the bisexuals, the transgenders, and not to mention probably the judges that overturned this thing. It'll get straightened out. It'll get overruled because he is right. He has that power to do that. So it'll get fixed. It'll get overruled, and then you're going to have to sit there and you're going to have to retract every one of these statements because you have my solemn word. I didn't even know your website existed. Your Facebook page existed. Your YouTube channel existed. But I will be the first one to jump up and remind you every time, my friend. Every time you have opened your mouth and inserted your foot. 10 minutes and 51 seconds. It's a 12-minute video.
Law and Order candidate wants to break the law, brazenly so. And don't take my word for it, this is what he said.
We have to bring back law and order.
Great, let's start with you, Trump. You can start by reinstating Attorney General Sally Yates, since you fired her specifically because she refused.
Well, I'm glad he fired her, and I hope that somebody put their boot up her ass so hard that she has to unbutton her coat to take a shit. That woman is so stupid, it is unbelievable. She rates right up there with Nancy Pelosi and all the other lame brains that were in our federal government, including Hillary Clinton.
To comply with your executive order, which broke the law, and second, you can resign because you are now violating the law, specifically the emoluments clause of the Constitution, since you're only choosing to enforce the Muslim ban against countries that have launched 0 fatal attacks on us in the last 40 years. The countries that you didn't ban that did attack us, well, you don't want to ban them from entering because you don't want that to impede on the business interests that you have with countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, and of course, that lovely golf course that you're building in Dubai. So the bottom line is that if President Trump believes what he said, which was this,
we have to bring back law and order,
then he needs to take this piece of advice.
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.